Hey, what's up everybody? We're going to go ahead and do just a quick reassembly of this iPhone 6s. The first one we're going to go ahead and start with is the home button. We're going to go ahead and reinsert the home button into its slot and press down the ribbon cable connector that runs underneath the screen. There's a couple of pins that line up for the kind of the little logic board that's attached to it, so make sure those are put in correctly. That's sitting flat. We're going to go ahead and put in the back plate onto the back of the display now. You want to be careful with the adhesive at the top. You can see that I'm pressing it down right now. I want to make sure that those two little flaps are sitting correctly and the screw holes are lined up before you push those down on top of the back plate. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the home button back as well. So we're going to line it up properly and make sure that we slide it underneath the back plate and then back into its slot. And you'll notice there's a pinhole off to the right hand side. Make sure that that lines up as well. Now we can go ahead and start to insert the screws. We'll start with the home back plate first. So both screws that are holding the home back plate on, and then we'll put the screw that goes between both back plates in. Then we have a total of 7 more screws, 3 on each side and then 1 at the very top, which is kind of in sideways. Go ahead and put those 6 screws in here real fast. Now they don't have to be extremely tight like the rest of the screws in the phone. You don't want to tighten these down so tight that you're going to strip the screw. We just want to get them nice and snug. Go ahead and start working on the opposite side of the display. Now I find it easiest to line the screw up on top of the screwdriver first and then insert it into the slot. Makes it a little bit easier than trying to line everything up. You don't want to lose these screws. It can be a little tricky to find, especially if you have carpet. Alright, we'll go ahead and put in the screw up here at the top that goes in kind of sideways here. Alright, there we go. So we've got some adhesive here. You can either just pull this off, or if you want to try to place it back down, you can do that as well. I mean, it's not extremely important that you have to have that. We're going to go ahead and put in the ribbon cable that goes on the top, the front-facing camera, proximity sensor, mic. Now, you'll see that these kind of all fit back into a correct spot where it lines up down here at the bottom. So the mic goes within a little slot here. Let's push that in first. And you really want to make sure everything's lined up properly and in its correct spot. We want to make sure the proximity sensor is going to function properly for us, the earpiece speaker is going to work, we don't have any camera issues. And it can be a little bit tricky to get done. Once you have that portion, you can go ahead and put in the top portion of the proximity sensor. And you'll see there's 2 little prongs up here that kind of hold this cable in, where this earpiece speaker is going to sit on top of. Now the earpiece speaker needs to sit inside of its rubber grommet as well to make sure they can hear properly, and then the front-facing camera needs to sit in its housing. So you may have to wiggle it around a little bit to make sure it's in properly, make sure everything's fitting. So just be aware of that. And it'll kind of want to pop itself off. So you may have to put the back metal plate on a little bit first and then wiggle it around. Possibly have the screw on your screwdriver ready to go first. So what you can see me doing here is just trying to double check and make sure everything's lined up properly. So kind of just double check it and see from the top. Now if your back plate is kind of bending, that it doesn't want to fit in properly, that's a pretty good clue that not everything's in correctly. So just be aware of that. Once you get it in, just going to go put the first screw in. Normally that'll go ahead and just hold everything in place. Put in the second screw. Perfect. And our third one up here to the left. It just doesn't want to stay on the tip of the screwdriver. There we go. Alright, so make sure that this little plastic housing, kind of rubber grommet goes around this. I believe that's a Touch IC. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not very good at the rest of the internals of all these phones. But I'm pretty sure that's the Touch IC chip that's on the ribbon cable. So either cut this piece of adhesive off or bend it into place. Really, all the iPhone 6s worked without this adhesive, so I'm not really sure why it's on this phone, but we'll go ahead and just pull it off. So everything looks like it's in place properly. We can go ahead and take the bottom part of our phone and reconnect it. Now, this part can be a little bit tricky. You definitely don't want to damage the logic board, so when you push these down, make sure they're lined up properly. Kind of look at the connector on the ribbon cable. You'd think that they'd all be centered, but they are not. So it may take you a few seconds to kind of get these to pop in place. Sometimes using a spudger can help you kind of move them around a little bit. And remember, you don't want to push the screen more than maybe a 90-degree angle on the phone. We don't want to damage any of these. So just kind of giving it a little snug push. They'll usually snap in, and then you can go ahead and snap the rest of it down. Now at this point, you could go ahead and power it on and make sure things are going to function properly. I'm really confident it's going to work for me, so we're just going to go ahead and put our screws in. A nice easy trick to hold this up while you kind of mess with it is to use your pry tool as a hinge for the phone. That way you can then use both of your hands to put the screws on the screwdriver, pull it back, and then put the screw in. Make it a little bit easier in this tough spot here. So I didn't snug down that first screw very tight to make sure I can move this around. And again, it doesn't have to be extremely tight. You can leave that one just a little bit loose. The majority of these screws have a little tiny bit of locking goo on them, so they won't really want to pull up. One last screw up here in the corner. I'll give this one just a little tiny turn here. Alright, now we can take the display. So we're going to pull it down and then push it in towards the top up here. First, make sure everything's set down correctly, and then we can push down on the sides. It'll kind of snap itself back into place. You may have to just kind of squish it on the sides just a little bit to make sure it's in there nice and snug. Go ahead and just power it on here real fast before we put the two screws in. So it's got power and the display is functioning, so we know that cable is at least attached correctly. Go ahead and put our two screws in the bottom of the phone here. There you have it. That is the reassembly of the iPhone 6s. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw those down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those. If you found the video helpful, hit that like button. If you want to see future repair videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I try to do my best to get a few out a month. Just double check to make sure the touch is functioning properly for us. And I powered the device on, so I have to put in my code here. Super crazy. There we go. And there you have it. Everything's going to function properly for us. As always, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.